We've got some tier lists, we've got some dynasty football, and we've got some running backs. This is going to be an action-packed video here that I have to share with you guys. I've got all of my tiers tiered out right now, and this is pre-NFL draft, I want to let you guys know. But I have 4 people in the S tier, 3 guys in the A tier, 4 guys in the B tier, and 1 guy in the C tier. I'm sure this is going to shake up quite a people's feelings. I can already tell now. I have got some pretty shocking, I think, rankings and tiers as we go through it right now. I'm just going to dive straight into the video. We're going to start here at the C tier. The only guy we have here is going to be James Cook. Now, hear me out. Yes, he ended up with quite a decent type of season. I'm just not sold quite yet on James Cook. And with the loss of Stephon Diggs, with more likely than being a rookie next year, they're going to be stacking the box, trying to stop Josh Allen from running the football and ultimately trying to stop James Cook from running the football. Let's just look at what he did last season. James Cook ended up with 1,122 yards and just 2 touchdowns, along with 445 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, James Cook is a 25-year-old running back. He's still young. I think that he still has a lot left in the tank, and he can even improve based on where we even saw him from last year. The thing is that I'm not quite sold on yet that they want to make James Cook the bell cow guy, and that is actually going to work for this offense right now with no real good threats on the outside for Josh Allen to take advantage of. I think he's going to see a lot of 8-man fronts. He's going to see a lot of difficult running room, and it could be a difficult overall season for James Cook. This is the reason why I had to place him in the C tier. I think it's just going to be one of those things that you're going to overdraft James Cook a lot, and he's going to get to the point to where he's really not putting out the things that you want him to do as your running back one. I know probably a lot of people have him even in the second round. It's going to be a little bit scary for me, right? But for dynasty football, if you have him on your team, you're happy you have him. But I'm telling you right now, pump your brakes on the expectations that you have for Cook, because I don't think it's going to be to the point to where it's going to be like gold. I think he belongs in the C tier right now. Maybe we'll see how the draft ends up shaking up. Do they do multiple high talented type of wide receivers that take some pressure off of Cook? We'll have to wait and see. Let's move right along here into the B tier. First guy we're going to talk about here is Isaiah Pacheco, the running back out from the Chiefs. He could really be starting to churn up a little bit, right? Multiple games he had last season with 20 plus carries in a game. We already see that Rashee Rice, he's probably either going to be suspended for a few games, if not the entire season, based on the things that he has going on. I think Isaiah Pacheco, he runs like a madman. I love the way he runs the football. Let's look at what he did last year in 2023. Isaiah Pacheco ended up with 935 yards, 7 touchdowns, along with 244 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. Isaiah Pacheco, another running back, just 25 years old. He's got a lot left to bloom, especially playing back there with Patrick Mahomes. We're starting to see Mahomes really take maybe a little bit of a step back with him and Travis Kelce. They're kind of saving these guys up for the playoffs, and they're wanting to run the ball more of a running style offense, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Pacheco. He's shown that he can carry the load and be a solid fantasy asset for your team, and at 25 years old, I mean, you can't beat Isaiah Pacheco. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful pick. Let's go over the next guy here we have in the B tier. It's going to be Kenneth Walker Jr. Kenneth Walker Jr., one of those guys that, Zach Charbonnet came out and they're like, oh my gosh, his entire stock is down. We're not up on Kenneth Walker. But you know what? He said, hey, hold my beer. Let me show you guys what's going on. He took over. He was injured for just a little bit there in Charbonnet and taken off as the 1A running back there, but he was clearly the man in this backfield. There wasn't really a timeshare per se with Zach Charbonnet. It was Kenneth Walker's backfield, and the offense didn't change very much. Yes, they don't have the head coach anymore. Pete Carroll's gone, but I think Kenneth Walker will be a mainstay in this offense, and he is going to still provide solid fantasy points for you. Let's take a look at what he did in 2023. We're looking at 905 yards rushing with 8 rushing touchdowns, along with 259 receiving yards and a touchdown on top of that. Kenneth Walker, a little bit younger than the guys we just previously talked about. He's 24 years old, and he still has tons left to give us for fantasy football. Yes, Zach Charbonnet is there, but he is not someone that is going to scare us off of Kenneth Walker. If you have him in Dynasty football, you are very happy that you have Kenneth Walker on your team. He is a solid running back and can produce solid fantasy points. I love the outlook for Kenneth Walker. The next guy we're going to talk about here is going to be Josh Jacobs. He's got a new team. Was over there with the Raiders. Now he's over here with the Green Bay Packers. I think it's going to be a match almost made in heaven. You see the kind of rushing yards that Aaron Jones was able to produce. And I think Josh Jacobs is a better, younger version than Aaron Jones. I think this could be really, really good. The Packers already have a nice offense, a good passing game. You add somebody like Josh Jacobs in there, he could have some type of fireworks in the season. Really close for me to not be able to put him in the A tier, but I think Josh Jacobs, if you have Josh Jacobs, you're super excited for him. Let's look at what he did in 2023. Josh Jacobs ended up with 805 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns alongside 296 receiving yards, and he failed to have a receiving touchdown. Josh Jacobs is a 26-year-old running back. Like I said, he's still very young, on the south side of 30 years old. I mean, we'd love to see that. I would say probably 29 and under is where you really want to start targeting. In the Dynasty, wants to get closer to that 30-year-old mark. Okay, they're kind of getting long in the tooth, but right now Josh Jacobs, he's a really good candidate right now. Probably be hard to buy right now. If you have him, you're holding. Do not sell this guy. I think he has a lot of good football left in him, especially playing for this Packers team. Finally gets off for the Raiders and for a viable football team at the Packers. I think you can see maybe even the best year yet of Josh Jacobs, and that's a lot to say considering he led the fantasy football world just a couple years ago, led the league in rushing. It was absolutely phenomenal. I think that you could even get a better year out of Josh Jacobs as long as he stays healthy. He has the ability to be a fantasy football monster. I can't wait to see what he provides there with the Packers. Next guy we're going over here, the new guy on the block, right? Saquon Barkley, the new running back there for the Philadelphia Eagles, finally gets out of the shadow of the Giants and go into a team that is a lot better offensive line, a lot better on the offensive side, a lot better on the defensive side. He should be able to provide a lot of fantasy points for you. I know they talk about the tush push with Hurts, but I think they're going to be forced to give the ball to Saquon Barkley. Look at the two running backs previously. You had you had Swift last season right there, and you had Miles Sanders the season before that. Both these running backs ended up with 1,000 yards rushing. You could almost lock and load Saquon Barkley for 1,000 yards rushing this season, and he's going to have plenty of touchdown opportunities. Let's just see what he did last year with the Giants. Saquon Barkley ended up having 962 yards with 6 touchdowns, alongside 280 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. He is 27 years old, so he's still young. He's still ready to produce for you at a high clip. I think that he's very close, right, to being into my A tier. Very, very close. He is just that good, but I had to tier these guys out, right? I've got to get these points where this group is a little bit better, this group is a little bit better, so it's hard to say Saquon Barkley's in a B tier, but that's just how I see it. I think I like guys just a little bit more than Saquon Barkley, but don't get it twisted. I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a phenomenal season with a phenomenal team who has running backs who's less talented than him produce at a high level. I think Saquon Barkley has an amazing season this season. Now we're moving right along here, moving on now into the A tier. First guy we're talking about is Travis Etienne, another running back right here for the Jaguars. Everybody thought Tank Bigsby was coming in, the running back out of Auburn, to take over maybe the goal line carries and a lot of the carries from Travis Etienne. He says, no sir, I am the man in this backfield. He showed us that he is the guy. As long as Travis Etienne is staying healthy, he's producing high fantasy numbers, and he's pretty consistent for your football team. Let's look at what he did in 2023. 1,008 yards with 11 touchdowns, 476 yards receiving, and a receiving touchdown on top of that. Travis Etienne is a 25-year-old running back, still very, very young, and I think he's producing at a level which you're very, very excited if you have Travis Etienne. There's no way you're selling him right now unless someone's giving you at least a first-round pick, plus some more assets along with that. It's hard to come by talent like this. Travis Etienne could be a mainstay for your team and your roster. I think overall with the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're only probably going to improve. They need to improve with Trevor Lawrence, even though they lost Calvin Ridley. They ended up getting Gabe Davis. Christian Kirk already proved that he could be a number 1 wide receiver. A lot of pressure. They're not going to be able to stack the box to go against Travis Etienne because of Trevor Lawrence in this passing offense as well. So I think Travis Etienne still, a lot of people may think of him as a scat back or somebody who's catching a lot of screens, but he runs between the tackles tackle quite well. Travis Etienne, a very good all-around running back, somebody you can really count on if he is your RB1 on your football team. Next guy we're going to be talking about here is going to be Kyren Williams, the guy out of the Rams, right? He showed that he can produce. I'm telling you, he was finally given the opportunity. They let Cam Akers say bye-bye Cam Akers. They let this young guy have a shot, and he really showed out. He is now one of the best dynasty assets you can get. You could probably got him for free last season if you picked him off of waivers. So Kyren Williams really kind of giving a lot of birthday presents, right, to those who decided to go ahead and take a chance on this guy and pick him up in free agency. And I love to see what he did. Let's just look at 2023 real quick. Kyren Williams ended up with 1,144 yards and 12 touchdowns with 206 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Kyren Williams, a 24-year-old running back, and man, he was pumping it out for the Rams. Now we have to be kind of cautious here with the Rams. What are they going to look like? Aaron Donald did retire. Defense not going to be as good. Is Matthew Stafford going to be falling off of a cliff? What are they going to do on the outside? Puka Nacua really came out. Is Cooper Kupp going to come back and be his old self? We don't really know what we're going to get. All we know is Kyren Williams should have plenty of opportunities to put up quite a bit of numbers for your fantasy team, and that's the whole reason why I have him here in the A tier. So the last guy I have here in the A tier, probably going to shock a lot of you guys. I'm going Christian McCaffrey. I'm not putting Christian McCaffrey in my S tier, just mostly because of his age, right? And he's a 28-year-old running back. Who knows about his injury history? Yeah, he's shown he can pretty much stay healthy for the most part, but it's hard to say Christian McCaffrey is an S tier type of running back as far as the long haul if we're talking dynasty football. I think for the next year or two, Christian McCaffrey will probably be the #1 running back in the NFL. But if we're talking about right now, this tier list, I'm looking at the future, right? I want to make sure I set you guys up for success. Now is the time to sell Christian McCaffrey. You always want to maybe sell a year or two early on your running backs, then a year or two late. Maximize the amount of profits you can get for Christian McCaffrey. You could probably get either multiple first-round picks or a first-round pick and another solid asset for Christian McCaffrey right now. I say go get that. Get some 2025 picks. There's not a lot of good running backs here in 2024 in the rookie draft. So just try to get a 2025 first and maybe some other kind of assets with that. You can easily replace Christian McCaffrey. Let's look at what he did in 2023. Ended up with 1,459 yards and 14 touchdowns, along with 564 receiving yards and 7 receiving touchdowns. And like I said, he is the last guy in the A tier for me, 28-year-old running back. I think overall not too bad though, right? We all know he's the best running back in football. I just don't have him in my S tier right now because it's these guys in the S tier are these young studs that you're going to have for 5, 6, 7, 8 more years and who are going to be super solid. And I can't put Christian McCaffrey no longer in my S tier because he's not going to give you multiple years of solid production. I think now is your sell window for Christian McCaffrey. But don't get it twisted. Like I said, I think Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in fantasy football, and I think he will be the best running back in fantasy football for the next couple years. I just think you need to sell now before it's too late. Now we're going over to the S tier. These 4 running backs here are super high on. They have a lot of talent. Let's just go over these guys. The first guy in the S tier we're talking about is Jahmyr Gibbs, and I have him as the 4th guy on this because of David Montgomery. Let's just be honest. When Montgomery was injured and Gibbs was in there as the running back 1A, he was phenomenal. This guy would be a little bit higher on my list if Montgomery wasn't there, but Montgomery's going to be there. He's going to vulture some touches. He's going to vulture some touchdowns. That's just how it is. Let's look over his 2023 production here. Gibbs ended up with 945 yards, rushing 10 touchdowns, along with 316 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. Gibbs, a 22-year-old running back. And like I said, he didn't even hit 1,000-yard rushing, and that was solely because of David Montgomery, not because of the skill set that Gibbs has. Gibbs has that potential to give you 12, 13, 14, 1,500 rushing yards and a boatload of receiving yards on top of that. I think Jahmyr Gibbs, solid, but the reason why I have him 4th here in the S tier is because of David Montgomery. Without him, he'd be a lot higher. Let's go over the next guy here. We're talking about Jonathan Taylor. He should be coming back from injury. He should be solid, completely healthy, and with an Anthony Richardson playing that play action pass, I think this is going to be fireworks made in heaven. Jonathan Taylor should have a solid run game. It was just a couple years ago, he was the #1 running back in fantasy football, and he has all the tools to be the #1 running back yet again. Let's look at what he did in 2023. Jonathan Taylor had 741 rushing yards. I'll remind you, he was hurt. 7 rushing touchdowns, 153 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. Jonathan Taylor is the oldest running back out of the 4 that I have here in the S tier at 25 years old, but the talent level speaks for itself. I think the opportunity, I think everything that's going around with it, they have Anthony Richardson, but they're going to have to guard. Is it going to be a play action and Anthony Richardson going to run on a sweep? They can't stack the box and they can't just focus on Jonathan Taylor. There's going to be a quarterback spy on Anthony Richardson at all times, which is going to open up a lot of running rings for Jonathan Taylor. I like what I see from this guy. Jonathan Taylor, an absolute phenomenal play. I can't wait to see him this season. The next guy we have here in the S tier, we're going Breece Hall, the running back for the New York Jets, and it should be an entirely different season. Now, Aaron Rodgers should last more than just 1 or 2 plays for the season. And if that happens, they're definitely not stacking the box against an Aaron Rodgers slinging the ball all over the field to Garrett Wilson, right? So Breece Hall, uber talented, uber young. He's got all the tools, right, to be the man. And I'm thinking in 2024, he's going to show you guys what should have been in 2023. Let's look at those stats from 2023, though. Breece Hall ended up with 994 yards rushing with 5 touchdowns, along with 591 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. Breece Hall, 23 years old, like I said, super young. I can't wait to see what we get out of Breece Hall. I think just really with everybody having to focus on Aaron Rodgers, and he's going to come out slinging. Aaron Rodgers wants a championship, and he wants to prove that he still has it in the bag. Doesn't matter that he's creeping on 40 years old. I think this offense is going to be clicking on all cylinders, and I think Breece Hall could be a big factor for that. Now, the number 1 guy that I have here in Dynasty football as of right now, I have to say Bijan Robinson, right? Everything's going well for Bijan Robinson. Arthur Smith is out of town. He should be the man now. They're going to utilize this running back where he should have some week in and week out being some crazy type of numbers. And we're talking about possibility of Christian McCaffrey type numbers here. He has a strong candidate to be the number 1 running back in 2024. Let's just look at what he did as the Cockadoodle in 2023. Bijan Robinson ended with 994 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns alongside 591 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. Bijan Robinson, still super young, uber young, 22 years old, came out of college, out of the University of Texas. Everybody was praising this guy to be the next guy, right? The one that everybody wants, right? And then Arthur Smith ends up clanking the guy with some handcuffs. Wanted to give Tyler Algier the ball way too many times. Didn't really utilize Bijan Robinson the way he wanted to. Now Arthur Smith's out of there. He's over there with the Steelers, and I'm telling you guys, Bijan Robinson could be unlocked this season. Easily the number 1 guy here in the S tier for me. But hey, that's it for the whole video, guys. Hit the subscribe button, really helps me out, and leave a comment down below. What do you guys think about my tiers, and what do you guys think about Christian McCaffrey being in my A tier and not my S tier? I'm curious to see what you guys think. Hit a like on the video, really helps us out. Can't wait to see you guys on the next video. We'll see you guys next time.